morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. It's Friday, and as we've come accustomed to with the Monday, Wednesday, Friday scheduling, we're just going to do a little bit of a news review of the week. There's a lot of great stories from this week that we're going to talk about, so go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You can get that Wake and Take awesome mug that I'm drinking from in the description. And good morning to everyone that is listening and tuning in right now. You can again find the Wake and Take podcast via the link in the description as well. And good to see you all here in the chat. Happy Hudson, Alex, Jamie, and everyone else piling in. I'm sure we'll start to see a lot of the usual faces as the new programming channel kind of becomes the norm as we move everything over to Player Profiler now. It's not just Wake and Take. It's not just Wake and Take. We are moving all live shows over to this channel over the course of the year, down to even Fantasy Empire, right? Like everything is going over here. We are rebranding and re-strategizing our YouTube kind of content. It is a lot of cool stuff that we're working on and thinking about. So make sure you are subscribed to Player Profiler now. If you are tuned in, you definitely are. But also still stay subscribed to the main channel, of course. Less content is going to come out there, but more good content, better content, more better content will be coming out on the main channel, which is going to be awesome. So glad to see you all, and let's get into it, right? Let's go ahead and just get into it. So we've got a lot of news stories, and some of them are exciting, some of them aren't, some of them are just rumors, and I guess I kind of want to start with a little bit of a disclaimer. We here at Wake and Take, it is my personal rule to talk about news. We'll discuss rumors here or there, and it'll just be simply rumors, right? We will talk about it as rumors. I don't like to say anything is fact. I really hate to speculate really in general, unless it's like a fantasy football take. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to come up here and say that, like, I don't know. There's just a bunch of different rumors and stuff coming out right now, like, you know, Bill Belichick coming to the NFL and a bunch of other just random stuff. Tom Brady coming out of retirement, you know, like just a bunch of just random BS. You know, random trades that like ESPN is coming up with, you know, like no one knows anything right now. And the media machine in general is just trying to get clicks. They're just coming up with stuff that they think will sell. And they don't care if it's true or not. But here at Wake and Take, we do. We want facts because it is very easy to get lost in the rumor cycle. And I hate it. I really do. You know, it's exhausting to just talk about things that might happen. Let's talk about things that are happening. That's what actually matters. There's some stuff that we'll talk about that's kind of like rumors or, you know, things in the work. Like we'll be talking about Deion Sanders later, but that's not really a rumor. It's substantiated. And that's the difference, right? There is some evidence that this is true. And so that's what I care about when I'm doing the show, when I'm talking about the news. And I just want that lesson to go at the top of the show for you guys, you know, because especially like the way social media is going these days, especially on like Twitter, you just can't tell what's real anymore. You just can't. I mean, there's fake verified accounts left and right talking about things that are happening. And so just remember the real sources, you know, and then remember to just kind of wait. You know, it is mentally exhausting, the kind of gymnastics that we put ourselves through every single off season, and I'm not gonna stand for it, and neither should you. So let's talk actual news. Quinn Ewers, he has officially declared for the NFL draft. You know, it had not been official yet. We all, of course, have been saying that he will. I mean, it kind of made sense, especially with the quarterback behind him in Texas and the year that they had at Texas. Not quite the year that they wanted it to be, but still an awesome, awesome season for the Texas Longhorns. And Quinn Ewers had a fine season, right? This is one of the quarterback prospects that are definitely going to be hit or miss. I do recommend you check out my rookies episode. It can be found on Player Profiler now, but it is also on the main channel as well. Quinn Ewers right now is still kind of expected to be a first-round pick, but as I talked about, his landing spot is very important. This is a quarterback who needs to land in the right system, with the right coach, with the right personnel around him. He's not the type of quarterback like a Maye, for example, who really can be a superhero and put the team on his back. He needs help. And that's fine, right? Like, that's okay. But this is a quarterback who was 20th in QBR in college, only 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He has a little bit of wheels, but he struggled against some of the top tier opponents and had a lot of interceptions as well. He also doesn't have like anything elite, right? Like, he doesn't have like elite arm talent. He doesn't have elite speed, he's just a good quarterback. And that's okay. But I just want you guys to kind of remember that as the hype for him bubbles up. I personally think that he's landing spot dependent. And I think that that's obviously the case for a lot of quarterbacks, but I think especially here with Quinn Ewers. And yeah, that's kind of where we'll leave it with that, right? I mean, there's not much more to say, but he is officially entering the NFL draft. If you go over to like the mock draft index, he is mocked to a number of different places. The Rams, the Seahawks, the Browns, the Giants, the Panthers, even the Steelers. And to me, out of those, I love the Rams. I do think that the Rams would be an excellent landing spot for him because he would probably be able to sit behind Matthew Stafford for one season, and then he'd be in a really, really quarterback-friendly system in Los Angeles that actually does kind of work with his play style of being more of like a point guard, finding the open receivers that are schemed open, not necessarily the ones that are finding themselves open. Like it's like a designed type of system around him. I think he would work well in that, and I like the Rams landing spot if they are to go that route. And the Steelers too, to another degree, a little bit less exciting than the Rams, but if they are to maybe bring back Russell Wilson, as we'll talk about here later in the show, maybe he could sit behind Russell Wilson for a year, kind of learn the ropes as well. Like, I do think he should probably have a year of sitting, for sure. And I don't want to write off a prospect before their career even begins. I don't think that's fair. But we'll definitely want to talk about his landing spot when we know it. And of course, we'll talk about him throughout the pre-draft process. And that's kind of it for the rookie stuff. For the most part, the rest of the stuff is going to be kind of year in review type news, maybe some head coach stuff as well. And just stuff from articles found on like the Associated Press, NFL.com, Twitter, all that stuff. And, that's just how we roll when it comes to the news. So I do want to play a quick ad break before we get into the rest of the show. And that is, of course, going to be about Flex 4 over at Fast Draft.
Oh, I see all this mock draft information out there. Oh, this mock, that mock. Hey, what about a real actual fantasy game? The Flex 4 game on Fast Draft, draftfaster.com, is open. You draft 6 running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. The top 4 enter your lineup every week. It's that easy. It's that simple. Drafts take 5 minutes. There's a $50,000 prize pool. It's $15,000 to first. It's just a $5 entry. And the best part, no rake. No rake whatsoever on Fast Draft, the first 2025 Best Ball contest to open in the world is ready for you to draft up to 150 teams. Draftfaster.com, draftfaster.com. Start playing Best Ball for real.
Go ahead and get ahead of the curve and do some 2025 Best Ball over at Fast Draft. You heard him right. No rake. Literally no rake. 100% payout for this tournament. Fast Draft's not making any money off of it. Crazy stuff. So I do recommend playing it. Only $5 to enter, and you can use promo code JASON to get a first deposit match up to $25. That'll get you, if you deposit $25, you'll have $50, and that'll be 10 entries into the Flex 4 tournament. Highly recommend that stuff. It's always really cool to kind of take advantage of the early ADPs and the hype from last season. There's definitely some values to be had. So go check out Fast Draft at draftfaster.com. That was a good ad read. I didn't even read anything. That was all off the dome. I have nothing written down. Let's go. So anyway, I want to talk about some head coach movements, and we'll start, of course, with Mike Vrabel. This was, of course, the head coach that we all knew was going to be the head coach in New England, but it has officially happened. He was hired this week, and let's just kind of talk about it. This is a coach I like. This is a coach I like a lot. I do think that he's a good football coach. He did a really good job at Tennessee. And, that's the type of football I like. I grew up watching in the early 2000s, so I like the classic, maybe a mix, just the kind of standard football that we kind of grew to love throughout the 2000s and through like the mid 2010s, a good balanced attack with a good running back and stuff like that. And he had a good tenure at Tennessee, finished 54-45. They had that 1 year where they were the number 1 seed. Derrick Henry's incredible season. Ryan Tannehill found some success under there, and, a lot of that was attributed to Arthur Smith, but really, really good head coach. Things just kind of had to change in Tennessee. They were moving on from Derrick Henry, and Mike Vrabel wasn't really the right coach to keep there based on the personnel and what they were planning to do. They were blowing up the organization, and he had this kind of year off. He was an advisor over in Cleveland the last year, but now he's back in New England where he played football, and honestly, things are pretty exciting. I do think the only thing I'm really worried about is Drake Maye. I don't know if it's going to be kind of forcing a square peg into a round hole, or if it really will be kind of built around him. And after I'm reading some interviews and learning some more about this, I am deciding to be a little bit more optimistic. It will be quite an undertaking, but I think things are going to be moving in the right direction. I do like Mike Vrabel a lot as a head coach, and I do think things will be good. So here's some quotes from the article over at NFL.com. Mike Vrabel said that I want to galvanize our football team, galvanize this building, and galvanize our fans. The most important thing are the players. There are some of them right there, and I want to provide a program that provides the ownership, but also accountability of each other, and one they'll be proud of to be a part of, and that they're going to fight for. We're going to earn the right to be here every day. We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. We're going to get everything we've earned, from the head coach to the position coaches, all the way down to the players. We're going to earn the right to be here every single day. In the interview process, this is Robert Kraft talking about him. He said, in the interview process, Mike showed us that he had a very deep understanding of our current team, and most importantly, he had a clear and focused strategy for how to get us back to a championship, and that is important to us. So I think that's really cool, right? Obviously, it sounds like Mike Vrabel is doing the whole classic just accountability, get the guys back to square roots, make us have pride in the team, and just be the Patriot way, bring back the Patriot way that, he played it, right? And I think that that's awesome stuff. And I also like the fact that Robert Kraft mentioned that in the interview process, Mike Vrabel came to him with a plan on how he would fix the team, and Robert Kraft agreed with it. And what I like, as I continue to read through this, is he is talking about, or was asked kind of about how in Tennessee, obviously the offense was built around Derrick Henry. What's he going to do with this offense? He doesn't have a Derrick Henry. And this is what he says. Our best player was our running back. So we tried to structure the offense and build the offense around what we felt like was our best player and what was our strength. When we had pieces around Derrick Henry that we felt comfortable with, we threw it just as successfully as we ran it. You base whatever system and scheme that you have around the players that you have. I do think there's a lot of versatility around not only myself, but also hopefully the coaches that will come to hire. And he said that the scheme starts with quarterback Drake Maye. So I think that that's exciting news. It does sound like he's not necessarily going to bring Tennessee's offense to New England, which again just makes me believe and kind of confirms my bias that he's a good head coach. As he talked about, it's about your personnel and not just your one big kind of football strategy, right? And that's really good news, is that he is going to come into New England with a plan to build a team around Drake Maye and his strengths. So I think that's really a beautiful thing. He went on to talk about how he's on kind of the same page as Elliott Wolf as well, the GM, which is good news. Hopefully that means that they are going to be kind of lockstep in the personnel that they bring in around him. And hopefully that means that they get him a wide receiver at pick 4. And hopefully that means they kind of shore up the offensive line a little bit more. And maybe bring in, I don't know, Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson are good. But I wouldn't mind, if he brings in a real running back as well. But either way, I'm pretty kind of excited about it. I like the hire. I was also upset they fired Gerard Mayo. I felt they should have given him one more year. But, if you want to move quickly, like Robert Kraft wants to, this is kind of the step you need to take. It's not going to change overnight. I do want to make that clear. I think everyone kind of knows that, but it's very easy this time of year to get lost in the excitement and be like, oh, it's going to turn around in 2025. I know we see that a lot with some teams with the right pieces. They turn it around instantly. I really don't think that's going to be the case in New England. I do think it's going to be a slow burn. I do think, they'll go from under 500 to around 500 to then having the winning records, right? There's still so many holes and pieces on this team. And I do think that a cultural shift takes more time than just one season. I think a lot of people, the end of the Bill Belichick and Tom Brady era really kind of burned out a lot of people still in the locker room in New England, and they lost a lot of the culture and pride in that organization. And that just takes time to get back. Sounds like Mike Vrabel will get that back. Sounds like he will be building the team around Drake Maye, and all of that is good news for Patriots fans and, the NFL and fantasy football fans. So, cool, right? Cool stuff. Another head coach development is happening in Dallas as Mike McCarthy is out. He is no longer the head coach of Dallas. This is an interesting thing, as we did hear from Jerry Jones earlier this year that they plan to extend him. But they came to a mutual agreement / didn't come to an agreement at the same exact time. They couldn't come to terms on a new contract for him or the rest of the coaching staff, actually. The entire Dallas Cowboys coaching staff was set to expire after this season. And Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, brass has decided, we're done. We're done. So Mike McCarthy will end his 5-year tenure with a 49-35 regular season record and a 1-3 playoff record. And that's kind of the Mike McCarthy special and why he's being fired. He doesn't have the playoff success. Now, I will say this is painful for the Cowboys, I think. They're going to go through growing pains, especially as it sounds like Deion Sanders is looking like the front runner to be the new head coach. It looks like there's some mutual interest there. And, with his son out of Colorado, it's not like he has much more reason to stay there anymore. So you're talking about a first-time NFL head coach coming to a team that kind of doesn't have an identity anymore. That's going to be tough for 2025, but I do think could be pretty exciting in the long term. I am curious to see what this means for Dak Prescott. Personally, if I were a GM and I'm moving on from my head coach, my quarterback's getting older, and really my only exciting piece is Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, and CeeDee Lamb, which are all pretty young stars, I would pretty much blow it up for the most part. Like, I would be getting rid of Dak Prescott if I were involved in this decision, or maybe just one season for him, but I just don't think Dak Prescott really wants that. So I am curious to see what this means for Dak Prescott. I'm not sure if we'll see him in a Dallas Cowboys uniform next year. I'm sure we probably will, but definitely something to keep our eye on as this develops. If they're going for like Deion Sanders, I think they should if they bring in Deion Sanders for real, which it seems like they will be, I do think they should just kind of blow it up and start from scratch and let Deion Sanders kind of build a team around what he wants to do. And I don't really think Dak Prescott is really what he wants to do, but maybe it is. So that's what I'm kind of curious to find out. I don't want to speculate too much on that, but either way, Mike McCarthy is out and Deion Sanders looks to be the favorite right now to land that job, as there is mutual interest from both guys. He played for the Cowboys, all that stuff. Another coaching update is Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is under contract for one more season. And through 2025, that's it, right? So he is actually looking for a contract extension. I'm sure that's something that's going to come. Not much to talk about. He has been a very good head coach. It's very clear. I know they haven't had the playoff success, but a lot of that's been they haven't had the right quarterback. And they hope J.J. McCarthy seems to be the one. But either way, everyone plays really well under this coaching staff. Kevin O'Connell's done an amazing job. I don't think that that's a hot take at all. And this extension will be in discussion. Just something to kind of keep our eye on throughout the year. This will be a developing story. Also, in the NFC North, Packers general manager has come out and said that they are looking to up urgency and try to win this championship while they are in this window. This is what he said. You always have some disappointments in the year. I think for me, the thing that's been on my mind as we've concluded this season is we need to continue to ramp up our sense of urgency. These opportunities don't come very often. The life of a player in the NFL is not very long. We've got a bunch of good guys in the locker room, got a bunch of talented guys, and I think it's time we start competing for championships. Of course, every GM's going to say that, but I do think it does ring true for the Green Bay Packers. That 100% true. And so this is something I've kind of been talking about over the last couple weeks. I do think that they are looking for an alpha wide receiver, and I think they'll get one this offseason, especially if the general manager is, kind of trying to up this urgency, really trying to capitalize on this championship window. And so that's a big thing. I would recommend buying Jordan Love right now. Right this second. I do think that Jordan Love is undervalued, and I do think that if they got a true alpha wide receiver, this Packers offense could be very special. They still have Josh Jacobs under contract. They've brought in Marshawn Lloyd. Jaden Reed's an awesome wide receiver 2. Christian Watson is an awesome wide receiver 2/3 when healthy, and Romeo Doubs is a good role player. But if you could get like T. Higgins, for example, I think that would be pretty special. Or if they trade up in the draft to get one of these rookies, I think that could be awesome. But either way, it sounds like the Packers brass is expected to up urgency. And I think personally, because the defense is fine. I think that starts in the wide receiver room. I think that's the biggest hole on this team right now, and it's not even that big of a hole. That's why he's saying that the time is kind of now. So that's something I would keep an eye on, and something that would lead me to recommend buying Jordan Love right now in Dynasty, single QB, Superflex, the works. I think that he is going to still be awesome for fantasy like he has been, especially if they do bring him in one more big weapon. And I do have one more coaching update, but it is, in the lines with the player update, so we'll talk about that too, and that is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has been playing through an injury all season, it seems. As we know, he had that heart issue in the in the Denver Broncos game in October. He went to the medical tent and had to leave the game for a little bit. So he is actually going through 2 surgeries this offseason. He's getting his hip replaced and going to have an ablation to treat an irregular heart rhythm. So I just want to send my positive wishes and well regards over to Jim Harbaugh. I hope things go well. He's one of my favorite people and one of my favorite coaches as well. I think he's an awesome guy, and I just hope that goes well. It always sucks to hear that he's going through that anyone's going through medical issues, and hopefully this will help him. I didn't realize he was 61. That is a good-looking 61-year-old. Anyway, Jim Harbaugh played through an injury most of the season with a heart issue and a messed up hip, which is kind of crazy that he just kind of pushed through like that. So props to him. And also props to him for sticking up for his quarterback, as Justin Herbert is coming under a lot of pressure lately. Jim Harbaugh's come out and said that this is completely unfair. I wouldn't spend 2 more seconds thinking about what happened in that playoff game. It didn't go well, and that's on me. That's my responsibility and accountability. I really felt going into that tournament that we were as good as the best teams in the playoffs. Not just as good as any team, but as good as the best teams in the playoffs. That day, we were not the better team, and that's my responsibility. We didn't play complimentary football. We weren't our best when our best was needed. But Justin Herbert, I agree with Barstool Sports and Big Cat when he said, if you're selling Justin Herbert, then I'm buying. I completely concur with that statement. We did him a disservice and didn't put him in the positions to be successful, but he played like a beast. There's nobody in this entire organization who gives more blood, sweat, or tears and contributes more and produces more for the entire organization than Justin Herbert. It's awesome. Then the owner was asked about it as well in Los Angeles and said that I hear the narrative and all that, but there's a lot of great quarterbacks in this league that may not have had the ideal start to their playoff career. Peyton Manning was 0-3, Lamar Jackson was 0-2. So if we're going to set a narrative on Justin just off of 2 playoff games, that's absurd. What I watched this guy do, he's phenomenal. A phenomenal competitor, leader, playmaker. We'll roll with him, and they're going to roll me out there before they roll him out of here. And I can promise you that. He's special, and special things are ahead for him. And this is true. You guys already know I'm one of the founders of the Justin Herbert fan club. I love him a ton. I think he's an incredible quarterback. And I do, of course, hate that he went out this way in this playoff game against the Texans. But still, what he's put on the table, on tape, has been just immaculate. He's an incredible, incredible quarterback. And I do think the great things are ahead. So if you can buy him in Dynasty at a discount, I would be looking to do that. They're going to add another wide receiver. They're going to fix the offensive line. They're going to figure out this run game. And this Chargers team, it's only the beginning. Like we talked about in my season finale, right? The fantasy season finale episode over in December. The Chargers are just getting started. This is going to end up being a powerhouse team. I like them a lot, and I love Justin Herbert, and I'm glad that Jim Harbaugh and the owner is sticking up for him. Just a few more news stories before we get out of here. But I will answer your question, Alex. I do think Vidal is a good stash. All the year 2 running backs. Rookie running backs from this season that are going into year 2. I think they're all good. Blake Corum, Kamani Vidal, Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks. I think that we should be stashing them. Like we saw from Kendra Miller, Tank Bigsby, Zach Charbonnet this year. Sometimes it just takes a second season. Deion Johnson has been on a ridiculous amount of teams this year, was released by the Texans after the playoff game, and then this week was claimed by the Ravens again, which does kind of make some kind of bad news for Zay Flowers and his injury. But yeah, not much to say. Deion Johnson released by the Texans and then claimed by the Ravens, so going from one playoff team to another. Probably still barely going to play. Probably still gonna complain on the sidelines, and probably gonna get released again before landing somewhere else. Hopefully not Green Bay. That would suck if that's the wide receiver they get. Seems that there's just something wrong with Diontae Johnson, whether it be his effort or locker room presence. I'm not sure. I won't speculate on it, but something is off. Something seems to be off, and he's now on the Ravens. We'll see how that develops. Russell Wilson wants to be back in Pittsburgh. He said that's the plan. I love it here and everything else. I think we have a great football team. Obviously, it didn't end the way we wanted to, and I think there's a lot more to do. He did note that he hasn't met with Team Brass about potentially re-signing, but his feelings about the organization are clear. I think they've known that I've always wanted to be here and play here, but it is also a process. We haven't had those meetings yet, so we'll have those and we'll go from there. He said that he has no desires to retire. He said that it's always been his plan to play as long as possible. I've said that since I was a rookie. That's always been my thought process. I feel great physically, mentally, and emotionally. And a little bit of a note, the entire Steelers quarterback room, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Kyle Allen are all set to hit free agency this offseason. So the Steelers do have to make a move. It sounds like, and makes sense, honestly, as much as I don't necessarily like it, Russell Wilson may be back for one more season. There's also some rumors that they'll bring back Justin Fields. And I don't hate if that's the plan. If it's both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, again, that's fine. I do think that's a solid quarterback room. You know, it's kind of two different fundamentals, but that's fine. I do think that Justin Fields could sit another year, really. And Russell Wilson could probably play another year if they need that bridge. So that's a big story that we're going to be watching over this offseason is that Steelers quarterback room. What are they planning to do? You know that's kind of the big thing the Steelers are talking about too. They need a better quarterback. They simply do. But also, quarterbacks don't come around often. You know, like they are hard to get. There's a reason that teams are always looking for them. So Russell Wilson's not bad. He's above replacement level. So it's fine. And I'm curious to see what they do. I think it would work. I think it would be fine. You know, the Steelers love fine. You know, it seems like they don't want to make the Super Bowl. They just want to make the playoffs, but that's okay. I'm sure they'll be looking at quarterback in the draft as well, and maybe that's the plan. Maybe Russell Wilson, and then as we talked about earlier, Quinn Ewers behind him for one more season or something. You know, Russell Wilson can definitely be a good mentor. So I don't hate it if he's back in Steelers. I really don't. And it seems like that might be the case, especially if Russell Wilson wants to be there. He'll probably accept less money. There's also one big news story, not really one news story just about the Broncos. Just they love Bo Nix, really. Sean Payton and the general manager of Denver have just both come out and just talked about how encouraged they are by his season and how much they want to build around him. And I just wanted to talk about that as it's positive news. You know, you just want to hear any team getting ready to build around their quarterback and feel that they have their franchise guy. Bo Nix did a lot this season, really did look great in parts. Of course, kind of collapsed there in the playoffs, but that's to be expected from a rookie quarterback. So, curious to see what that means by building around him. We know that there's kind of a situation developing around Courtland Sutton and that wide receiver room in general. But they do have a young nucleus, and they made the playoffs this year. So they have a lot of things to be excited about. And if they're going to be building around Bo Nix, that's great news for the Broncos and Bo Nix. And that'll do it. I don't really see any questions in the chat. Yeah, no questions in the chat. So, hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow at JFootballWine wherever you can. And everyone, you have a fantastic Friday, a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the divisional round. We will be back Monday for some more Wake and Take. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.